Idaho Sheriff.
Welcome to the Liberty Without Compromise live stream with Dan and Dawna Wilson. We are the only flim-flam-free broadcast in all of Kootenai County, bringing you facts, evidence, and valid questions concerning the office of the sheriff and other elected officials right here in Kootenai County. This is the stuff that affects you directly, whether you're aware of it or not. We're going to make you aware. And remember, if an elected official tells you never to trust a source of news or information other than themselves, the elected, that's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
It's going to be a problem right there. Give us your questions and comments by typing them right into the comment section on whichever platform you're watching. If you're watching live, share this live stream to your channel. For our podcast, you can listen and subscribe wherever you get your shows. And to learn more, visit our website at libertywithoutcompromise.com. Now, here's your host, and still the Idaho Sheriff, just to make people mad, Dan Wilson.
Hello, everyone. So great to finally get to talk with you all. It's been several weeks. Lots has been going on, and we are now ready to get back in the saddle, as promised earlier, to continue the message of liberty without compromise. And yes, I am still running for Kootenai County Sheriff 2028 because I have a bunch of unfinished business. But this podcast is not the Idaho Sheriff podcast. And so we're going to talk about things that are not only local, but also regional and international. So anything that has to do with freedom, liberty, truth, justice, those are the things that we're going to be covering. And we invite you to spread the word, to share this podcast, or this broadcast rather, because we also have a podcast that we're going to talk about, but spread it to all those that you know that might find this message timely, might find it encouraging, and that may want to join in with the discussion. To all my friends out there, howdy, good to see you all.
We had somebody message us earlier this week that said, how can an average Joe Schmo like me get involved or help share the message, liberty without compromise? And then as we get closer to campaign season, when that comes, well, I mean, one of the easiest ways that really costs you little to nothing is to subscribe to those channels. Head to the website, libertywithoutcompromise.com, which is kind of melded with what you'll find familiar for those of you who visited before, the Idaho Sheriff. And enter in your email address so that you can be on that mailing list. And then as we have news and updates, you can stay informed. Doesn't really cost you anything but a couple minutes of your time. And then follow our channels on social media. Those are invaluable steps that you can take. And then as we're putting the message out there, producing these live streams and podcasts, share them, not only to your pages, but to local news groups or with your friends and family. Those are just very simple, easy ways that you can get involved and help spread the message.
One of the things that I learned on the almost year that I spent campaigning, and it was a year, but really kind of more or less 11 months, is how many people are thirsting for truth, that are hungering for those individuals that will stand up and boldly tell the truth. Now, we have national figures that do it all the time. And I can think of like Dan Bongino, Clay and Buck, Jesse Kelly, my all-time favorite next to Rush. But in our own local areas, who do we have? Who do we have speaking up for us right here in what is transpiring in our own community? One of the things that I'm grateful for with the reach of this message, the Liberty Without Compromise, is the friends that I have made throughout the entire country. We had a chance a couple weeks ago. We went down to Boise, however you want to say it.
Just say it fast.
Boise. And love going down to Boise, despite those that think it's a liberal cesspool. It's still a nice city to visit, good people down there. And I got to see my buddy John. John and I connected during the race. And, you know, this is what I love about social media. We're going to talk about this a little more here shortly, about the media. The traditional legacy media is dead. Elon Musk has stated that we, the people, are now the journalists. And I believe that. We noticed during the entire campaign how little local media is doing anything besides their puff pieces on fundraisers and, what development's going in. They don't give a damn about anything regarding corruption in local politics, in our local, government. And so we, the people, have to be the gatekeeper for all these electeds that are in our own community and in our state. We have to hold them accountable. We have far greater reach locally than we do at a federal level.
I just want to remind you, if you do have questions and comments, put them right into the comment section. A couple of you have already jumped on and you're saying hello. So I want to say hi to Angela and hi to Gerald. We've missed seeing you guys.
Yeah.
And thank you for joining in. Questions or comments, put them in the comment section. I can share them up on the screen, so that's fun. Even if it's not something we address specifically, we can just keep that conversation going with everybody.
Now, it is the Christmas season, and I don't know if you're like me, but Christmas is a holiday that I really love, but I've grown to really dread it because it's become so commercialized that I would love to see it get back to simpler times when the focus is really on the message of Jesus Christ. Now, the next couple of weeks, we land on holidays, Christmas Day and New Year's Eve. We are not going to have these live broadcasts for the next 2 weeks, but we will be joining back up right after that. And in the meantime, we want to remind you about our podcast. Now, the podcast is just audio, and it can be found not only on our website, thelibertywithoutcompromise.com, but you can find it on any platform where you stream your podcast, Spotify, iHeart, Spreaker, Apple, all of them. So go to theidahosheriff.com. Whoops, it's habit.
You know what? Actually,
it's habit.
It's fine because right now you can get there either way. So either way, theidahosheriff.com, that's a familiar landing page for everybody. That still works perfectly fine. And libertywithoutcompromise.com.
Now, we started the Liberty Without Compromise podcast right after the heels of the election. And one of the things that we encountered, that we experienced during the campaign, is the bias of a couple local power player churches, and more specifically, the power player pastors. So we're going to play a little clip of the series that we're currently doing on the Liberty Without Compromise podcast. Mm-hmm. Let's go ahead and play a little teaser for that.
All right. Original email. And you do say hello. Mm-hmm. So there is some lack of personalization there because you didn't know that a generic email address that you were given.
We don't know.
You don't know. So you say hello. I'm running for Kootenai County Sheriff as a Republican and would appreciate the opportunity to have a brief visit with Pastor to introduce myself. And again, the lack of formality there is because you don't know if you're requesting this through a secretary or what. Mm-hmm. I've included our press kit as well as for more information on my background. You will also find more details on my website, and you give that. Thanks in advance for your time. Yes, your name and phone number's on here, but that's typical to any email signature. Mm-hmm. So it clearly requires, both parties would know this requires a response to know what you can do next to make that happen.
So coming back to this conversation that took place in August, that we have the audio recording of, that we now have made into transcripts to read this. He goes on to say, "Now I'm going to be a jerk. I know you're here to try to get me to pay attention to Dan Wilson. Dan Wilson has not done a thing to get my attention. He has not called, asked for an appointment, offered to take me to dinner or lunch. He's not wined and dined me. And you know what? It sounds arrogant, but that doesn't fly with me. If you want my attention, come and talk with me. And I'd like to put him on a hot seat. I'd like to put him on a stool in front of this church and say, we're going to ask you a bunch of questions. And if you're going to answer it, and that's the way I want to approach it." That is episode 1 of Power Player Pastors.
You were deep in thought there.
Well, it wasn't quite done, but people get the gist of it. We want you to go ahead and go there if you want to find out exactly what's going on with 2 of the most prominent evangelical churches in Coeur d'Alene area that are very politically involved. We're doing this series so that the people in Kootenai County can find out what maybe their pastor, what their role was during the election and some of what I'd call the heinous things that they were involved with and what they were saying and spreading. It's our chance to go ahead and give a play-by-play of, in their own words, exactly what the various pastors were doing.
And it really is not with any type of celebration whatsoever. I mean, it is extremely disheartening that we have had to release these podcasts to really expose what's going on in these politically active and influential churches, and specifically with the leadership. I understand that for many of us, the church it's kind of that last stronghold, that last fortress, that last thing of hope that you want to be able to put your confidence in when you feel like so much of what's going on in the world around you, or maybe even here locally, you're unsure of what truth is. And so it becomes very personal. And for that reason, this is hard to listen to. But if you bury your head and just say, I don't want to know, it's easier just not to know.
I just want to feel happy when I go on Sunday morning.
Yeah.
I want a place for my kids to go, because we all want our kids to be exposed to the faith. We don't want to think about the dirty stuff, how sausage is made, so to speak, even though this really isn't how sausage is made. And I know that there are no perfect institutions, nor am I looking for a perfect institution, but be very, very aware that there are wolves in sheep's clothing right here in Kootenai County, people that supposedly are very well looked up to, respected. And when you hear in their own words exactly how vile they really are, how arrogant, how self-centered they are, they need to be held accountable. And if you go to one of these churches and you listen to what we are producing, what are you doing to talk to your pastor about their conduct?
And it is not taken out of context. This is not our opinion on something. No. It is in their words.
Yeah. And transcripts that we received. We have the transcripts, but we also have the original recordings.
Correct.
Yeah.
So you can find that we're 5 episodes in. I actually published the 5th today. Kind of did a soft launch on that 5th episode. But go to libertywithoutcompromise.com under the media tab. You'll see that podcast there. And just if you haven't gotten into the series yet, start at number 1 and work your way through.
Now, the backlash from the campaign is still ongoing. We had a lot of people that were really, really upset that a conservative that wasn't owned by anybody jumped into the race. And we know that they tried desperately to find out who's behind Dan Wilson. Who's put him up to this? There's no way that a guy like Dan Wilson can come in and just run for sheriff. I mean, he's got to have support. He's got to have backers. And we had people in this community that are so-called journalists, which we're going to find out that we have a couple electeds that say that if you don't have a board and actual credentials, that you're fake news. Mm-hmm. But these are some of those people that would be considered fake news that happen to be for our opposition. And they've been running their mouths quite a bit. They ran their mouths a lot and said a lot of vile, untruthful, outright lies throughout the campaign. We're going to be exposing a lot of that as the weeks come, but we had kind of a unique situation that happened today.
Yeah, well, I think there's a story that hit the news, which I'm going to share a photo here, zoom in first on the story that got some local coverage with the Coeur d'Alene woman who was reported missing by the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office, and she was found dead. And so there was a comment in a local political chat group. I might let you fill in some of the blanks here.
This was shared with us off of the Kootenai Spectator Telegram group, which is run by Erin Barnard and her husband, two-bit tattoo artist Lucky Barnard, who are Norris bootlickers to the umpteenth degree. And so, first of all, our hearts go out towards the family for the loss of this loved one. That's not the point. But what is the point is this so-called journalist that doesn't have a board, that according to Norris would be not credible, This is what this individual of Bastion of Truth has to say on this Telegram page.
It's up on the screen now, and this is a comment by Erin Barnard, not trying to hide her name. She doesn't. And I mean, she's made her opinion blatantly, clearly known. So I don't think there's a need to hide names. We've at times protected people's names, but no need to here. She says today in this Kootenai County Spectator Telegram group, Dan Wilson is to blame for Sharon Davidson's death. Screw him and everyone who questioned the search and rescue helicopter from doing its job to search for her from the air. I am devastated over her death. She could have been found alive.
Well, Aaron, that's a pretty ballsy thing for a woman to say. And what I would say to it is that I guess all that bloviating that you were doing, the past year in opposition to Dan Wilson, a true conservative, I must have been right, because you're now stating that my actions were what brought the helicopter, which has been grounded for 3 months. It hasn't flown since September 12th. It's still on the ground. But I guess, Aaron, then you are admitting that there was some substance to what I was saying, hence why the helicopter has been grounded. But, I've never found you to be necessarily the most credible individual. After all, you did come from downtown Seattle area, I think by your own admission. In 2020, you decided all of a sudden you're going to be politically active. So you started your little news groups. But you kind of lost me and my respect about a year ago when you played this video on TikTok.
Okay, I just need a little
and this
bit.
video is, I don't know, this is when it turned.
Yeah,
turned for me.
I'm going to give a little bit to this because I had to speed this up. It turns out this was a nearly 5-minute rant. So I'll just preface it with that and then we'll jump in here.
Nation is doomed. I just had an experience at Rogers
Erin
Burgers in Coeur
Barnard,
d'Alene
Kootenai
at
County
Government
Spectator.
Way and Apple Way, and I'm angry that it happened, and I'll tell you why. My family went there after church to get burgers, lettuce wrapped, because I try not to eat gluten. Because see, my face is round. That's from gluten. And we got fries. Our entire meal, 4 burgers, 4 meals, came to almost $60. So right there, a meal is $13 at Rogers these days. Anyone who's lived here for a hot second knows how it used to be.
But that's besides the point. It really is. 2 of the burgers were wrong. One was lettuce wrapped and was supposed to have bacon and grilled onions on it. The other one was the same burger, but it had a bun and it only had burger and cheese and lettuce on it. So it was like a plain burger, and then I got a lettuce wrapped one with bacon and grilled onions, right? They were wrong. They were messed up. One had the bun, one didn't. They were the opposite. Shouldn't have been a big deal. I went up and said, hey, these are backwards. They should be the opposite. She's like, what's wrong with them? I'm like, well, this one has a bun. This one is lettuce wrapped. They should be the opposite. She's like, well, what's the difference?
Watch this whole
like,
thing.
dude, they're wrong. Can you please remake them? I wasn't even. I'm like, this one has lettuce, supposed to be a bun. This one has a bun, supposed to be lettuce. This one bacon.
We get the point.
It's not that difficult.
So
You read on
Aaron,
the slip, that's
it is.
She made a huge deal out of remaking these burgers. They're
It
burgers.
is a 5-minute rant.
Big whooping.
Yeah.
Woohoo, who cares?
How her burgers were made incorrectly.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you were saying we really gave her some credence, first realizing that
Like
she
her
was a
and Summer
name.
Bushnell before Summer got
Yes.
proven to be a liar in court.
Realizing that she was a name that traveled in local conservative politics. And so, okay, I want to get apprised of the situation, get to know people, spent time viewing some of the things that she was producing and putting out there as she was attending meetings. And then she'd give her synopsis after attending board meetings or, a myriad of things in local politics. And then she came out hot and heavy, just like throwing fiery darts at you the second you announced. And then somewhere in that time frame came her burger rant. And it's like, how do you take a person like this
Well,
seriously?
and she was 100% serious in that rant. But
She was dead serious.
the thing about Aaron and Lucky is they were so vile. Had never met them personally before, and they came out, and we're gonna talk about this in further episodes. But really, Aaron, I understand that you just can't stand not being able to be on the constant attack, and I would like to take credit for grounding that abomination, that helicopter. But there's a couple other things that I want the people in Kootenai County to realize.
Well, first, are you responsible? Are you both responsible for grounding that helicopter, and secondly, responsible then for for a woman's death because Able One couldn't fly to view the the heat source of her body and potentially save her from.
Well, let's break that down a little bit. So if this aircraft was such a great idea, remember they discontinued their MOU with Spokane County Sheriff's Office and Two Bear Air, which did also have search capabilities. In fact, Spokane's Air One has far greater capability. The thing is that helicopter, which right now has been down among other things because of insurance, but also due to engine trouble. So the jet engine on the helicopter is in disrepair. They were only able to raise about $200,000 this year in their auction when they needed far greater capacity for this all-volunteer helicopter. But because they did not have the full means to produce a reliable aircraft and insured correctly to make certain the county was fully covered, they should have had that aircraft fixed and back up in service if it was really everything that it was cracked up to be. But it isn't, because it's underfunded. They have amateurs running this. And the fact of the matter is that if it was going to be out of service for 3 months, should there not have been a contingency? Put your thinking hat on, Aaron and Lucky, and ask the question. Should you not have, if you are responsible as the sheriff for okaying and pushing this vehicle, this aircraft, before the Board of County Commissioners to say, hey, it's going to take over, we're going to discontinue a service with a reliable source, you should have contingencies in case your aircraft for 90 days can't get back up in the air. Right? But here's something else. There are other aircraft that could have been called into there. We don't know the circumstances. So, I mean, this is all speculating off of this little comment of hers. But you also have to ask where the drones were. Remember, the community just recently funded yet another drone for Kootenai County Sheriff's Office. I believe we have now 4 to 5 drones where the drones used. What about the search and rescue dogs? So again, Aaron, I understand that you're hysterical, but you probably should take a breath, take a deep, deep breath, consider all the circumstances before you start going and making defamatory comments when you're saying that Dan Wilson is responsible for this lady's death. It's a good thing I'm a nice guy, or I might have my attorney give you a call.
Yeah. I mean, there are so many aspects to this, the helicopter debacle, as Dan has put it. That's the position the helicopter has. He's placed it in, talked about that for months. But, if that helicopter is grounded, what it also is telling me is that the foundation of it was not solid in the first place.
It never was.
If a guy named Dan Wilson is asking questions about how it's insured or how this program is run and really what the association is with Kootenai County Sheriff's Office when it's running through this supposed nonprofit, and rather than an elected official coming out and standing on solid ground and saying, there is no issue with here, let me produce documents, put you at ease. If there's no issue, do what you set out to do. Well,
look, I was able right after the election to finally get some of my records requests for the air support unit. I'm getting more, but here's a couple things that we did find out after months and months and months where I was telling you that this 501c3 with the IRS for the Kootenai Regional Air Support Unit did not exist, even though we were being told, even though they told the county commissioners that it existed, even though they told people that all of the contributions were tax deductible, we found out that that is not the truth. In their own words, they just this year filed for the IRS 501c3 filing. Before that, they were using the Kootenai County Search and Rescue 501c3 to what I would call laundering money from a nonprofit 501c3 who is then giving money to a corporation that was privately owned. And I want to know if they truly were reporting that as income or not. But we were lied to. That was established. And we're going to be talking about this debacle air support unit in much greater detail in the weeks to come. But we do know from my insiders still inside the sheriff's office, because they are still there, that Bob now believes the helicopter is a black eye and he wants nothing to do with it. There is talks that they're going to make this an all-volunteer unit. They're going to take the sheriff's logo off the side of the helicopter, and then it's going to be turned into just kind of a volunteer group that volunteers where deputies are on board, but they're not on the clock, volunteering their time for, these search and rescues. And then the question is, once that becomes, the fact, what are they going to do with the $100,000 worth of equipment that Mark Miller, or Ellis, I'm getting all my names all mixed up.
It's a lot of names, yeah. Mark Ellis and Bob Norris went before the county commissioners and begged them for
$100,000 to equip this helicopter that the county doesn't own with civil asset forfeiture money. So we're going to find out what they're going to do with that equipment, because they shouldn't have that equipment. That equipment should be sold back and returned.
That's not going to happen. I mean, at best, the program was a mess, and it's not standing on solid ground, or they would have been able to make a case for it and continue doing what they're doing. And to turn around for anybody to blame that on you, I mean, I think it's a couple of naysayers that might blame that on you, but you have a whole county full of people who are there to thank you for drawing that to light, because if it really was that flimsy and Norris is now seeing it as a stain on his reputation.
Mm-hmm. Well, he does what he always does.
Yeah.
So he runs from the problems that he helps create. Now, I'm curious. I'd like to know, Bob, why you're still losing deputies. Since November 6th, per my public records request, we've lost one lieutenant at the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office. We've lost one patrol and one jail deputy. And I think we're down a couple more support staff. So what's going on?
Yeah.
What is going on over there? And we're going to continue every month to give you a tally of how many are leaving the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office. We're being told things are in pretty dire condition over there.
I think they've been busy. They've been busy in the month of December, but not busy hiring, apparently. One question from Angela, just to finalize this Able One deal, but any idea how much longer Able One will be grounded? And Dan, I mean, you kind of answered that already in saying it sounds like they're going to restructure,
rebrand it. Rebrand.
And I mean, timeline. It's that's probably hard to say.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that there's going to be some investigations as to what they were doing with their money, because the money issue to me looks extremely unethical and possibly illegal. Coming from somebody who's run companies now for 25 years, I don't know how you get money from a nonprofit where people give to the nonprofit, the 501c3, they get a tax deduction from their contribution, and it's supposed to go for, nonprofit type activities like search and rescue. So then you're going to take money to the tune of, my understanding, hundreds of thousands of dollars and funnel it from that 501c3 to the Kootenai Regional Air Support Unit. How does that work in business? When somebody gives me any kind of income, I have to report that, and it is taxable. So are these guys going to be on the hook for past taxes due? And why is the state of Idaho not riding shotgun on this? Because if they've designated themselves as a 501c3, how are they reporting their state income tax? So lots of questions. I don't know, Angela, but we will eventually find out. That's for certain.
I have just raised my own personal question, haven't spent the time researching to get answer to it, but how typical is it really that there are so many nonprofits associated with sheriff's departments who have quite large budgets for their areas? I'm not expecting Dan to answer that right now. That's just a question that I've thrown out there. So if there are experts in that we could bring on, that might be something interesting to poke around in, to raise more questions about that, which could be a lot of monkey business. But at the sheriff's office, and Bob Norris, Bruce Matari, they indeed have been busy. They've got most of us sitting here in December inching closer and closer to Christmas Day, but they haven't hung their hats up yet for any time off, because they have been highly invested in this license plate reader technology. Dispelling what are just the lies that are circulating from media sources that shouldn't be trusted. And then secondly, scheduling meetings.
Which he's saying Teresa Roth, who's the scientist.
Who puts out the flyers.
Yeah. So Teresa Roth's, newsletter that she puts out, her website rather, and various articles, and it's North Idaho Slow Growth. So she's anti smart city, smart technology, which is part of the United Nations, 2030? They're constantly changing the name and number. But Bob hates, and Bruce, the dynamic duo, DC Matari and Malibu Bob, hate when anybody dares to speak out against them, and they immediately brand it fake news. But they don't do that with like the Kootenai Journal. They don't do it with the Kootenai Spectator and the People's Pen and those other rags that are pro-Norris that don't have, according to him, they're not credible because they don't have board members, right? They don't have credentials. So that's all thrown out the door when it's sycophants for DC Matari and his schemes and his Homeland Security buddy versus, those that dare to produce research, produce the documents, so to speak, to say, this is why we should be concerned. And we should be concerned. It does not matter whether or not your phone is tracking you. It doesn't matter whether your smart TV is tracking you. We don't want law enforcement with the capabilities right now to use license plate recognition technology in almost 40 patrol cars to the tune of, in the region, by Motorola's own admission, there's 4.6 million license plates captured in the Spokane Coeur d'Alene area per month. And while now it may not be that big of a deal, eventually it will be used to implement United Nations. You will own, World Economic Forum. You will own nothing and be happy. You will be confined to your 15-minute cities, and you will be subject to your social scores. So if you are speaking out against the government, you're not going to be able to purchase certain things. You're not going to be able to travel. And again, you could say that is extremely Orwellian thought, but look at what we've experienced the past 5 years in this country alone. And tell me that stuff cannot be fast-tracked to start surveilling people to use as a weapon against us. Now, there's a couple things that we're going to play, a couple clips, because as Don alluded to, back in August, while the budgets were still being deliberated on, I wrote a letter to Chairman Duncan of the county commissioners, and I voiced my opposition. I cited my references as to what Motorola Solutions, which runs Vigilant software, that's the license plate reader technology that is used by the Motorola cameras that are mounted on the almost 40 patrol vehicles. And I came out against that, along with others like Jen Noel and Teresa Roth, and there's a host of others. They came out and spoke. At that time, we were told that Norris was going to do some things that we're going to play here in a second, and that he's going to listen to the people and have town halls. Well, they decided that they're going to go ahead and force this down anyway, even though people said they don't want it. And on the 23rd, a couple days before Christmas, when everybody's home, they are going to request the full funding for this 5-year, $100,000 contract with Motorola Solutions. So we have a couple videos here. We're going to probably play. I'll talk about them a little bit, and we'll go from there.
All right.
So a technologist. I am not a technologist. I see bad guy, chase bad guy, arrest bad guy, take bad guy to jail, testify against bad guy, see you later, bad guy. Bruce, can you talk to us about...
Okay. So this was last night from a town hall where Norris had crime-fighting technology. And he wants, again, to dispel all the rumors about the fear-mongering that's going on and the untruths about license plate readers and other technology. Now, we are going to have a special edition that we'll roll out sometime here in the next couple of weeks, where we're going to do a play-by-play, and I'm just going to do a running commentary. As I got into the hour and 10 minutes or so of the what we call it, that he had the town hall. There were just too many clips to take. We're just going to run it play-by-play, and we're going to talk about some of the things that he's saying and the techniques that he and change agent DC Matari are using for the people to justify why they're using it. So that was him last night. And you have him admitting that he's an idiot, that he doesn't understand how the technology works. He's not a technologist. Other guys are technologists, but he's not a technologist. Well, as an elected official, we don't care that you go and arrest bad guys, which I know you don't, because if you did, you'd be in violation of your, settlement with California.
Well, he apparently does high-speed chases.
190,000.
He told that story in the town hall. His
a
town hall
lot of
last
violations there, most likely, of his Lacera disability, $190,000 disability settlement. But we don't care, Bob, that you do or don't arrest people and take them to jail. What we do want is we want a sheriff that understands the policies and procedures and how to represent his people and to direct policy and to direct the agency in a manner that is respectful of all people's rights and that actually understands what contracts you're signing off on to. So.
Yeah, I think to give him a pass when that was almost caveman speak.
Yeah.
I find bad guy, chase bad guy, arrest bad guy, testify against bad guy, say goodbye to bad guy. I don't know about this other stuff.
Almost sound like a Russian agent.
Sorry.
Igor.
I don't hire me to do
it. It's kind of sexy.
Don't hire me to do the accent. But I heard that clip because I reviewing that meeting, it was painful to watch. I had to speed it up to 1.75 to just get through it because it's like, come on, you guys. I'm going to play one other clip. I'm hoping it's the right one because I pulled it in I messed something up here. But I'm like, excuse me, sir, but it is your job to know. It's not your job to truncate what your responsibilities are and say, look, I've spent 30 years just going after bad guys. I don't know about any of this stuff. And so I'm going to kick it over to Bruce Matari.
Oh, Bob,
are you absolving yourself of responsibility?
Yeah, because we know that he doesn't know. And why do we know that he doesn't know? Well, we're going to talk about that here shortly.
Yeah. I'm going to see if this clip plays and it's what I think it is.
Brokers. Yeah. Big data is big money in this country. And any information that is
Mr.
captured
Bruce Matari
on you
educating us, the citizens.
is likely available
DC
for sale
Matari.
through one of these companies. And the less you pay for the service, the more valuable you are as a data dollar.
In essence.
See what his
So
point's
how
gonna
many
be
people
here.
pay their subscription to Facebook? Nobody, because it's free. You know who the product is? You. You are the product.
These companies love this stuff because when you are using their product, they are capturing data about you every second along the way. A lot of times, even when you're typing something into a field, they're capturing that before you can delete it if you decide you don't want to send it.
Okay, so you get the point. Bruce
not
Matari
invasive. There's companies out there that will inject code
talking
that's added onto someone's website so they can track your movement.
he
They
goes
can actually
on
capture an email address when they
He's talking on behalf of Bob to try to kill time.
He jumps in for Bob all the time. Basically, Bob cannot do a town hall without his sidekick, Bruce Matari, because Bruce Matari is going to, and you see this in that there's one where Bob's going on and you see Bruce like I gotta jump in here. So Bruce, he talks to distract. He is there to distract you. He talked for almost 4 minutes, and that's just at this one point in this meeting, in this town hall last night. And he does it repeatedly when he's presenting alongside Norris. Not only in this meeting last night, but every time Norris does a town hall, you'll find that this is the pattern. So when somebody talks about irrelevant facts, and I wanted to put this in here because this is something that DC Bruce Matari does all the time, whether it's county commissioner meetings or when he's alongside emceeing with your sheriff, Bob Norris. When somebody talks about irrelevant facts to avoid addressing the main point, and in this meeting last night, that was the LPR software and them pushing this. This is often called a red herring manipulation tactic. It's designed to distract the listener from the core issue by bringing up unrelated information, making it harder to focus on the real topic at hand. So the key points about red herring manipulation. One is distraction. The goal is to divert attention away from the critical point of discussion. And then misdirection is the other piece by introducing seemingly important, because Bruce, people are like, well, that sounds smart. He's going to spend 4 minutes educating me as to where I really am at risk with my phone and my smart appliances and my vehicle if it's newer than 2014. So he introduces seemingly important but really irrelevant information and the manipulator attempts to mislead the listener and again distract from that main point.
Well, but it goes right hand in hand. And I don't know if I'm getting the same feedback that you are. I'm getting slightly some feedback.
I'm not.
Hopefully,
I don't
it's not
hear
coming
it.
out online.
Oh, I hope not.
But Bruce is a certifiable change agent. We've seen his tactics over and over again. The pre-prepped questions, the desired outcome, the predetermined outcome, and the way that he will bloviate to get people to believe that their idea is really what his idea is.
Well, and they spend look, if you go to this meeting on LPRs and your point is to say, we don't want them, like I should not have to hire an attorney and come before a judge and make a case. I am just telling you as a citizen and taxpayer for this technology, we don't want them.
Yeah.
But they spent the majority of that meeting with a predetermined outcome to tell you why you shouldn't worry, because all this other technology that you're already using is far more dangerous.
We're going to dispel this here in a second with some of the other clips, but you're exactly right. Bruce Matari asked the question, why is this idiot constantly standing with Bob Norris?
Melita jumped in with a comment, says, I've never seen a, quote, group package of a county commissioner and sheriff working so closely here until the last, here in Kootenai County, until the last few years.
The question is Homeland Security really behind this? There, I said it.
No, you just did.
Did Homeland Security set both these guys together to bring them up, one from D.C., one from Los Angeles? Because I'll tell you what, a lot of what they're doing and the people they're associating with, to me, look a lot like a Homeland Security operation in violation of the 10th Amendment. Because they're going to do whatever they're going to do, regardless of what the people up here say. And all I have to do is say they're pro-Second Amendment and pro-privacy. And one of the things that I also want to point out is this. Bruce Matari has on his BMW a license plate reader defeater. And that's a cover that he puts over his license plate. In fact, he admits this earlier in a public comment that Bill Breezy challenged him earlier this year at Kootenai County, and you can still find that online. I forget what day that was. And he admits that he, in violation of the law, has a license plate reader blocker on his license plate. Now, the question I have is, okay, as an elected official, if you're going to publicly state that you oppose some laws and you are not going to follow them, then what do other people get to say? And are there consequences for you for disregarding the law that other people, they would be held to a similar standard, or are they going to get a pass like you? But even Bruce Matari admits by the fact that he doesn't want his plate scanned, that there's a danger. And when you listen to these idiots go on about how safe it is and nothing to worry about, then why the hell does he have that on his vehicle?
Mm-hmm. And I think you've got a great clip from Norris at an earlier town hall, the same one where your letter to Chair Duncan was read into. So I'm going to play that and let you comment on that.
As we speak, we have a international crime network that is attacking Kootenai County that's been identified through this license plate recognition software. International crime circuit right here in Kootenai County.
Okay. So he was trying to justify that meeting where I came in and I said, look, here's all the problems. And he was ready to go to challenge my letter. And he says there is an international crime network that these LPRs were able to hit on and find out. And I remember all of us are sitting there going, international crime syndicate or circuit or network or whatever he's calling. That sounds pretty serious, right?
Yeah.
I'm thinking maybe Russian mafia, chop shops, maybe Mexican mafia, who knows? But to me, that's what a national crime network is and does. And I did a records request requesting information and flat out was told no records exist, right? So basically, we just have to take a bloviating Bob at his word that, by God, we need these LPRs because look, we uncovered an international crime network. Now, fast forward 4 months to, again, last night's, Q&A dispelling the lies about technology and crime fighting. Listen to what he says.
Clearly, we hit on this at the budget hearing. At the time, we had some preliminary information. This dirtbag here was arrested 2 weeks ago in Las Vegas. A international crime thief who hit Avondale Golf Course for $20,000 and Highlands Golf Course for north of $20,000. This international criminal was arrested, and that case was built on a hit on LPR here in Kootenai County. And we just arrested this guy. This guy was just arrested.
Yeah. You didn't
And
arrest
that's a
him,
Kootenai
Bob.
County case.
Las Vegas area law enforcement.
I'm honestly concerned for his health with
Probably
the breathing.
his heart attack. You know, he's the two
It
stents.
sounds like he's struggling breathing,
two stents.
and that's I'm
Congestive
being
heart failure,
sincere
maybe.
on that.
Yeah.
But
Now, how do you go from a international crime network to here's a dude that stole $20,000 from two different golf courses in the region and has criminal activity, and that's a national crime network of one man? I mean, this again is the problem with Bob is he's constantly stretching and lying, and he's lying to you when he, back in August, in front of the whole God and country, wanted to tell everybody, this stuff is so important. I can't, it's super, super freaking top secret. I'm going to tell you right now.
It can't be trusted in anybody else's hands.
There's people with less experience than 30 years as a law enforcement professional from Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. Only I can handle that kind of information. And there's a national and international crime network working here right now. Liar. One person is not a crime network. So again, you can't make this stuff up, but it's what he does. Now, there's one last video, and again, I'm gonna dive into this in one complete special episode where I'm going to counter a lot of the crap that he and DC Matari are saying and the things that they aren't saying that should be said. But let's go ahead and play this.
So currently, and we are proposing a policy, but currently we have very, very stringent controls over the use of this. They have to be trained. Everybody has to be trained on it, and they have to know the consequences of misuse of this data.
Mm-hmm. So he's saying last night in December, a couple days before he's going to get his contract signed, and regardless of what the people have said, the county commissioners, it looks like, are going to go ahead and let this be ramrodded through, and the sheriff's going to ramrod it through, and he is going to propose policies, and there's going to be training, and there's going to be consequences. And yet my public records request, which was read into the record, states that they had, by their own words, back in August of this year, they had been demoing this software, these license plate readers, for months. They had no policies, no past policies, no present policies, no training. He says that this is all information that can't get out to the public. And, you know, if it's given to the wrong hands, it's going to be dangerous. And yet here he is again showing, I'm not a technologist. Well, you're not a policy guy either. I'm not even certain that you are a real good street cop, but you've been definitely a professional desk jockey. And here's the reality of it. You had no policies. You were so short-sighted that until Dan Wilson made a big stink about it, you didn't even think a policy was going to be warranted. And so now you're going to talk about policies. And we'll again talk about this in our upcoming episode, the dangers of the data in storage, despite what they're saying.
Yeah, there's so much to go over, and that definitely need to be its whole own episode. But you know, another thought that I had is this high-speed guy that came from Los Angeles,
Yeah.
that
Super high speed.
super high-speed career cop. one thing he should have been able to come in and accomplish in his first several months in office of his first term was to look over policy manuals for everything that was under his responsibility in that department. And so I know this is a deviation from, not only did you do a records request to find that there were no LPR policies in place. They could not produce those. Through other records requests, as you've asked questions on other parts of the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office, they either didn't exist or when they produce them, they're a wreck.
Yeah,
they're boilerplates from other departments in edit mode or don't exist.
They
it's
sent,
a mess.
They sent Word documents that the original authors were Spokane County Sheriff's Office.
But, Norris, in his own words, he's like, I see bad guy. I catch bad guy. I interrogate bad guy. What do you do?
Rodney King, bad guy.
I don't know.
Rodney King, bad guy.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So we're back on the air. It's been a while since we've live streamed. We're here. We're here tonight. I think we covered a couple of really important things that we had
because the license plate reader is imminent. Yeah.
And it's imminent, and they are pushing it while you are not paying attention. And so that meeting with the county commissioners where they're going to approve the dollars is that December
23rd.
December 23rd.
Yeah.
They're doing it when you're not paying attention. So I don't exactly know what the path is other than showing up to that commissioner's meeting. I don't know what time.
I think it's already decided. They do not care. They just do not care what the people have to say because they're going to always justify it as, guess what? Officer safety, which I've told people is dangerous for your liberty. Anytime you hear somebody in law enforcement say, or government say, officer safety, check. Stop. Look at the fact, figure out whether or not they are trying to emotionally manipulate you into something that they shouldn't be involved with, or if they're trying to get a pass on something, or whether it is legit. Now, body armor, legit. Officer safety, right? Yeah. Training, absolutely. Officer safety. Budgets that are out of control, not officer safety.
Betty is joining us on YouTube, and she wants to know if he's talked about what he wants to implement for the people rather than, we're making an argument that this technology needs to be deployed for officer safety. And I know that they're selling it to the people by saying, one, don't worry because your data is far more compromised than all the other technology you're already using. So we're not doing anything bad. You don't need to worry about this, but then also we're going to catch bad guys and that's to benefit you. But that was Betty's question. And she's wondering, can the people speak against it? Have they?
Well, I think they've attempted to. I think they've attempted, of course, we've got a great county commissioner coming in that's going to replace one that is leaving. He was a former county commissioner and now reelected after, I think, 5 or 6 year hiatus. Mark Eberline, super good man of the people. If he was in right now, I'm pretty confident that he probably would not be putting up with it. And he definitely is for the people. He did a lot of really good things for the people, especially property rights back in the day when he was in office. But
and they're pushing this before he takes office.
Yeah, of course. This is similar to what we're seeing right now with the continuing resolution, right? We got to do this before Trump gets into office because, look, they do it at a national level and they do it right here at a local level. It is what it is. Now, here's what Bob has been doing good for the community. He's been in all the parades, pulling behind his SUV with the big old sign on the side of his SUV, Sheriff Bob Norris. He's pulling a trailer with a bars, like a jail cell cage on the back of a trailer with the Grinch. So he's been showing up at all the holiday events, arresting the Grinch.
Because if he can make your kids like him, you will also like him.
Apparently they do.
That's how this works.
Now, I want to talk about, speaking of government and things that they should be doing, which is look at these drones. Now, I've heard all sorts of theories on these drones, and none of them sound good to me. Some of them will terrify you. Some have you rolling your eyes going, oh, great. But here's a question. Regardless of whatever these drones that are being primarily spotted over New Jersey, the East Coast, and of course throughout all of the country really, is what do we do about those drones right here in Kootenai County? And something positive would be for a sheriff to come out and say, folks, we know this is going on all over the county. Here's what I can tell you about if we see such aircraft in our skies right here in Kootenai County. These are the things that I would and would not advise to do. These are the things that are legal and not legal to do. These are the things to be afraid of and not afraid of. And I would be reassuring the people, because I don't know about you, but have any of you heard what Bob Norris's policies are on drones, unidentified aircraft above us?
Well, he'll come out with a statement or a policy after you bring it up.
Yeah. So, Bob,
That's what we're gonna find.
here's a suggestion for you.
Pretty sure.
Why don't you come up with some kind of statement to assure the people or to prepare the people for whatever these drones are or are not? And also, Bob, have you talked to anybody, with the fact that we have the inauguration coming around the corner? In fact, Newsom just declared today a state of emergency for bird flu. Kind of looks like COVID type of talk again. What are you doing to prepare the people of Kootenai County in case any of these hundreds of thousands of polystability actors, those military-age males that are all over the country from Africa and the Middle East and China and other parts of the world, these military-age males that nobody knows where they are you talking anything about, hey, this might be a potential problem and what to be looking out for? What are you doing? Are you just going to be like, none of us deserve to know anything about what you're doing? A leader. And you guys now own this guy for the next 4 years. Time to hold him accountable.
And what about a statement, what's happening in our community with what was passed, I think, today when it talks about emergency management?
Well, that's with Coeur d'Alene and Emergency Management Act, but it was regarding some concerns. Dan Gookin was concerned about language saying that if the governor or local official, which the mayor of Coeur d'Alene would have to declare an evacuation notice, that those that refuse to leave their homes or businesses could be arrested by law enforcement. Always a bad sign. I would highly recommend that law enforcement never arrest homeowners from their own property if they decide that they don't want to evacuate. But Dan Gookin was concerned about that. So kudos to him for always erring on the side of personal liberty. In this case, rather. So I don't know if he does it every time, but in this instance, but I do understand that after some debate, it looks like it passed.
Yeah.
So
it just would be nice to have a statement from
a sheriff
the
saying,
sheriff.
Yeah, we're not going to allow
and
that.
And instead, at the same time, on the same day, they decided to do his town hall on license plate recognition. So you have these two.
He did have a Country Boy Cafe breakfast.
The pancakes
this morning.
Oh no, I thought he was at Super One.
No, it was at Country Boy
the
Cafe.
flyers were just up at Super One.
Yeah. But yeah, it's very important to have leadership in your law enforcement, your elected official that's going to stand up for your rights and to say, hey, I can fully understand local city administrators or city councils or mayors, but we're not going to allow people to be arrested off of their own home for failing to evacuate. Personal liberty, again, liberty without compromise, right? You have a right, regardless of what some dictator at the governor level or at the local level wants to say. If you're being advised due to a fire to leave your property and you decide not to, well, then guess what? You take every bit of responsibility. If you perish or you get trapped, you're not calling in resources to come save you when you have the opportunity to flee. But that's okay. You get to exercise your liberty. And that's what we keep talking about over and over and over again. Never compromise your liberty. Your founders gave us those documents that recognize liberties that surpass man, that come from God alone. And government is set up to protect your rights as found in the Bill of Rights to life, liberty, and property. And I'm looking forward over the next several months talking more about liberty, talking about the founders. We're going to talk about some of the great lessons from history on those founders that witnessed firsthand tyranny and what they did about it, and in their own words, their wisdom. We'll talk about biblical things from time to time as well. So
we're going to continue to uncover juicy topics that are happening in politics right around us, but we're making it fun, interesting, relevant, and getting you out of your seat to say, this is why this matters to you. This is going to affect your everyday life.
Yeah.
So have your holidays, think about a happy new year, loving your family, but then also figuring out what you need to do to change the course and direction if we are going in a bad direction here
and just
locally.
Because Trump is in office doesn't mean that we are in the safe zone. You need to be extra prepared, extra ready for anything, prepared for the worst. Now, switching gears one last time before we sign off.
Mm-hmm.
If you want me to come and speak to you or your group locally, I'm more than happy to do so. You can reach out to do we even have that?
Info at the idahosheriff.com.
Okay. Info
at the idahosheriff.com. Can get in touch.
So if you have a group and you'd like me to come and speak about liberty and constitutional things, I'm more than happy to do that. So reach out to us and we can figure out the logistics. I want to put out a special request to those of faith that are listening tonight. I have a good friend, Ron, who was just recently diagnosed with a very serious health crisis. He's very sick and came out pretty unexpected. And he's in the hospital right now in ICU. And I want to ask all of you of faith to pray for Ron, pray for his comfort, pray for recovery, pray for hope for him, and just keep him in your thoughts and prayers as you think about it over the next several days and weeks. So thank you all. As always, remember, we didn't descend from fearful men. We descended from men who understood the times, they acted accordingly and bravely, and, they practiced liberty without compromise. They pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor, and I implore you to do so also. Stay strong and be courageous. Merry Christmas, and God bless you all.
As Dan mentioned a little bit earlier, we will be taking a couple weeks off because Christmas and New Year, I think sounds like land right on a Wednesday. So we'll be back after the new year. Meanwhile, you will want to subscribe to the brand new podcast. It's Liberty Without Compromise, available on any platform where you get your shows. Right now, we are highlighting the Power Player Pastors series that is going to be critical for you to listen to, even if it makes you uncomfortable.
Spread them to your friends in Kootenai County.
Thank you for joining us for the Liberty Without Compromise live stream broadcast. And Tracy Scott's going to be praying.
Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you for all those of you that joined in with the comments tonight. Betty and Lisa and Melita. And I'm being the romper room teacher. If you're listening back on our podcast, catch us live most Wednesday nights at 7. That's on Facebook, YouTube, or on X. Just search the Idaho Sheriff, and then learn more at libertywithoutcompromise.com. As I said earlier, for a podcast, listen and subscribe wherever you get your shows. You can be like Amy Fonstrom and still purchase gear on our website, libertywithoutcompromise.com.
And our good friends from Hawaii.
Aloha. Our gear is going to be seen
Lori.
all over Hawaii. So thank you. She did hats and sweatshirts and
pillows,
pillows like couch pillows.
Was it
for the
Airbnbs? Was it a My Pillow?
It might have been a My Pillow. Oh. So we'll see you guys again soon. Again, subscribe. We will be releasing podcasts even between now and the new year. So you need to pay attention. Liberty Without Compromise podcast. Subscribe to that for all the new episodes.
Love you
See
guys.
Soon.